The economic and fiscal damage coming from climate change is going to become very severe very soon.
The biggest economic cost is going to be related to so-called physical risks. Those are damage created by hurricanes and flooding and wildfires, which are occurring with greater frequency and causing increased economic loss.
Most businesses get the idea, yeah, we've got to go green, that's the direction of change. But frankly, it's too much confusion, not enough guidance. Really, the first thing we need to do is to stop the climate change as much as we can and as fast as we can. Even if we turned off all the emissions immediately, we would still have decades, maybe even centuries of climate change, but it would be very gradual compared to what we're experiencing right now. We can't stop what's in the works already, but we need to do this because there is no way to adapt to what is now in store if we don't change our ways.
Everybody says we're going to reach net zero, but there's a lot of greenwashing and green wishing rather than real specific plans. The economic and fiscal damage coming from climate change is going to become very severe very soon. In countries where climate change becomes severe, you'll have a collapse of economic activity, lack of water, desertification, collapse of agriculture.
Growth is necessary in order to meet our environmental goals. It's rich countries that are able to be environmentally responsible because they have enough wealth that they can invest in wind and solar and also adaptation mechanisms. It's the poorest countries that are having the most difficulty adjusting.
How can the whole world get a clean energy system? Because if the U.S. does it and others don't do it, forget it. It doesn't stop the world crisis. How can we help to ensure that we don't destroy the oceans, the fisheries, or the rainforests, but still have economic development? Because a lot of those fragile ecosystems are in places where there's still a lot of poverty.
We are incorporating climate risk into our modeling and into our forecasting. It is starting to impact our longer-term economic projections. When I say long-term, more than a year or two. Over the next 10, 20 years, the biggest economic cost is going to be related to so-called physical risks. Those are the damage created by hurricanes and flooding and wildfires, which are occurring with greater frequency and causing increased economic loss that we're all going to have to struggle with.
There could be significant damage to your operation coming from climate change. There'll be parts of the US or part of the world where sea rise level, flooding, hurricanes, typhoons, wildfires, droughts, and you name it, is going to damage economic activity. And if you're there, you could have losses.
And then, of course, the other cost is so-called transition cost, the cost of moving from an economy that's dominated by fossil fuels to one that's driven by clean energy and green energy. And that's a cost. You can see that the Inflation Reduction Act is an effort to provide tax credits to promote that transition, but that's a cost to taxpayers. It's not like something that's going to drive the economy off the rails at any given point in time. It's more like a weight on the economy, kind of like a corrosive on the economy.
Clearly, there are a lot of opportunities for more structural changes, things like capital being directed towards climate change and the energy transition. But, without growth, we have to think a lot also about how we're going to continue to drive food production and think about improving livelihoods over the long term.
Most businesses get the idea, yeah, we've got to go green, that's the direction of change, climate change is dangerous. But what it really means for them in terms of timetables, supply chains, energy costs, technology, we're just not there because the way our politics works is leave it to the market, maybe to the market with the thumb on the scale through tax credits. But frankly, it's too much confusion. Not enough guidance.
And of course, over time, fossil fuels are going to become expensive. If you want to switch and to be efficient from that point of view. And there'll be pressure from stakeholders and society, of course, to do that green transition. So everybody, individuals have to be involved, businesses, firms, and corporations have to be involved. And of course, the government and countries have to be involved. Unfortunately, many of the commitment to net zero done by many businesses or even financial institutions are more like corporate PR rather than real plans.
We need to bring communities, workers, public and private institutions together to create value in a more collective, better way that's purpose-oriented, solving climate problems, solving all the sustainable development goals that every country has signed up to. And the how really matters.
We want to understand how we have all these new technologies which are very disruptive in the economic sense. They change jobs, they change the way the economy works. They make a lot of winners whose winnings are bigger than the losing, but we need to make sure that we bring along society, not just have a more and more polarized society. What new kinds of institutions or rules can enable us to use the new technologies well, change the energy system in, 25 years, we got to get this done worldwide, and at the same time not have the world blown apart by this incredible gap of rich and poor.